Have you ever really stopped to think about one of the biggest, most fundamental questions we humans have ever had to answer? How do we organize ourselves? It's a question that has literally shaped our world. So today, we're going to unbox the whole concept of government and trace it all the way from ancient ideas to the complex systems we see all around us. I mean, that's really the core problem, isn't it? When you've got millions or even billions of us trying to live together, how do you make all of that work? How do you keep things orderly, protect people's rights, and just build a society that functions? This is the big question that government is supposed to answer.
Okay, so let's start with a basic definition just to get on the same page. At its heart, government is the system. It's the whole machine that uses authority, makes the rules, and, keeps the peace. You can think of it as the operating system for a society.
But what is this system really? Well, thinkers have been divided on this for centuries. You've got Woodrow Wilson, who just cut right to the bone, calling government organized force. And you know what? He's got a point. It's the only group in society that can legally make you do things, whether that's paying your taxes or stopping at a red light.
But then, on the complete flip side, you have someone like John Locke. He saw it in a totally different light. For him, government isn't just about force, it's about protection. He called it a trust that we the people hand over, and its specific job is to guard our life, our liberty, and our property. So you have these two incredible opposing ideas. Government is force, and government is trust. And that tension, it's at the center of pretty much everything we're about to talk about. To really get a grip on our modern systems, we've got to go way back to one of the first, and maybe one of the greatest, attempts to map out the political world. Yeah, we need to talk about Aristotle.
Aristotle came up with this absolutely brilliant six-box system, and it's all based on two really simple questions. First, who is in charge? Is it one person, a few people, or a lot of people? And second, why are they ruling? Is it for the good of everyone or just for their own selfish interests? So if one person rules for the common good, he called it a monarchy. But if that one person rules just for themselves, bam, that's a tyranny. And this same logic gives you aristocracy versus oligarchy for the few, and polity versus what he called democracy, which, you gotta remember, back then often meant something kind of like mob rule.
So Aristotle's system was a game changer. But let's fast forward a couple of thousand years. The world's gotten a lot more complicated. So we've had to develop a more detailed set of tools, a kind of modern matrix, to really describe the governments we see today. So instead of thinking about rigid boxes, I want you to think about these modern classifications as different lenses. Each lens lets us zoom in on a specific part of how a government is built and how it actually works day to day. Let's start with a big one, the democracy lens. Even this one single idea comes in different flavors. You've got direct democracy, like when everyone votes on a single issue. But what's way more common is representative democracy, where we elect people to decide things for us, like in the US or India. And you can even add other layers, like calling it a constitutional democracy, to emphasize the rule of law. Okay, now for two words people mix up all the time, authoritarian and totalitarian. An authoritarian government concentrates power, and it restricts a lot of political freedoms. But totalitarianism, that's a whole other level. It's an extreme version where the state tries to control every single aspect of life, public and private. The difference is the sheer all-encompassing scope of its control.
And that kind of nuance applies to monarchies too. You have an absolute monarchy, like Saudi Arabia, where the king or queen has total, unchecked power. But then you have a constitutional monarchy, like in the UK or Japan, where the monarch is a head of state, but their power is strictly limited by a constitution. Basically, they reign, but they don't rule.
Another lens we can use is all about geography. How is power spread out across the land? In a federal system, like the US or Germany, power is split between a central government and smaller regional governments. But in a unitary system, like France or China, all the real power is concentrated in one single national government. And what about how the different parts of government relate to each other? In a parliamentary system like the UK, the person in charge, the prime minister, is part of the legislature and has to answer to them. But in a presidential system like the US, the executive, the president, is elected separately and is totally independent. It's a really fundamental difference in design. And our last lens for now is about the very foundation of the state's authority. A secular state like the US or France draws a line between religious institutions and the government. But in a theocratic state like Iran or Vatican City, the laws of the land and the government's right to rule come directly from religious text and authority. Okay, so
We've got all these lenses, all these different labels. But here's the most important part. Almost no country is just one of these things. In the real world, governments are a combination, a mix and match of all these different ideas.
So let's try it out. Let's build a description of the United States using our new toolkit. Okay, step 1, it's a representative democracy. Step 2, we'll add that geographical lens. It's a federal system. Step 3, we look at the branches. It's a presidential system. And step 4, the basis of its law, it's a secular state. See? They all stack together to give you a much clearer picture. Let's do one more, just to see how different the combinations can be. The United Kingdom. Okay, it's also a representative democracy, but it's a constitutional monarchy, and it's a unitary system, not federal, and it's a parliamentary system, not presidential. It's like using the same Lego bricks to build a completely different model. So, we've gathered all these terms, all these classifications, but it all leads to the most critical question of all. Why does any of this actually matter to you and me? Because these labels, they aren't just for a textbook. They are literally the blueprint for the relationship between you and the state. Whether your country is federal or unitary decides which laws you have to follow. Whether it's a democracy or an authoritarian state defines your most basic rights and freedoms. This isn't abstract theory. This stuff shapes your entire life. You know, in the end, you can think of your government's type as its source code. It's the deep down programming that determines how the whole system runs. And that leaves us with maybe the most important question you can ask yourself. What does that code allow, and what does it prevent?